Oh my god, this movie is just terrible, but honestly has this weird quality to it where you just want to watch more. Like, okay, I watch these movies with a guy. After the movie, where you'd usually get to the fucking, he was basically just like, can we watch number 2? Like, this movie is ruining my sex life. It's been a weird day. Hi guys, what's going on? It's me, I'm back, oh may we, and I wanted to do some more makeup today, but you guys might remember the other week, I sat down, did some makeup and talked about a movie called The Protector. I found it on a streaming service called Passionflix. I thought since I'd already paid the $4, I may as well do another one. So here I am, I'm back in the habit, Sister Act Part 2, to talk about some more cinema Passionflix movies. I have found one that is somehow so much worse than The Protector. I didn't think it was possible, yet here we are. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I had to watch and rewatch and rewatch this movie many times whilst even trying to outline this video because oh my god, this movie's script is a mess. If you can hear something like foraging around off to the side, it's a dog and she just does not want to sit still today, so... Oh, do you want to see her? Okay, fine, real quick. Oh, you got your butcher chicken. She doesn't like being picked up. Wow. You say hello to the people. You say hello to the people. You just no. Put me back down. Okay. I'll put you back in bed. What? Back in bed. So, without further ado, this is Dante's... No, that's not what this is. Gabriel's Inferno. So, the movie opens over an exceedingly... long, like, my god, surprisingly long version of Lacrimosa. It's the one that's like designed for people to do who like had their balls chopped off or whatever the fuck. It opens with an excruciatingly long version of that mess, whilst the camera kind of pans over Renaissance paintings of like sad looking white people. Plot twist, that is a very good indication of what is to come in this movie. Like, honestly, I am not kidding. There is not a single person of color in this movie. In fact, was there any person of color in the last movie either? No. Passionflix, you got a problem. I know your market is like middle-aged white mums, but come on now. They can't all be wanting like, you know, sad boiled noodles. Someone wants a bit of flavor somewhere. So we open on a classroom where our main character, who is a man named Gabriel, is teaching a lesson in Italian classical literature. He is a professor at a university in Canada, and we are also introduced to our other main character, whose name is Julia. So she is Gabriel's student, but she's also a master's candidate at the university. Pretty Little Liars, eat your heart out. Gabriel like asks Julia a question and she's busy taking notes or whatever. Like, she's paying attention, but she's not paying like all the way attention, which like prompts him to immediately scold her and be like, what's wrong with you? Is English not your first language?
Since Ms. Mitchell seems to be carrying on a parallel seminar in a different language, perhaps someone else would be kind enough to answer my question.
Which, I'm not gonna lie, struck me as kind of weird, you know, considering they are studying Italian literature. So there is a good chance that, no, in fact, English is probably not her first language. And if it isn't, it's a really rude way to go about asking that question. I just say you're a really bad teacher. So Julia is sat next to another student named Paul, who hands her a note in like, you know, attempts to make her feel better. And the note just says, Emerson's an ass. And Emerson is obviously Gabriel's second name. So Professor Emerson, Gabriel, Professor, same guy. And yet again, for some reason, Gabriel must demonstrate to us that he needs to treat these adults like children and tells Julia to meet him in his office after class for passing notes because she's been naughty. You know, even though she's like a 25-year-old woman, but whatever. Okay, let's go with it. But when Julia leaves the class and goes to his office, she sees him like having a bit of a meltdown.
Just tell him I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Like he's in his office crying, he's on the phone yelling. So she leaves him a note and just says, I'm sorry, like, you know, you seem busy. I'll come back later. Signed, Julia. Seems kind of reasonable, right? Like if I go to someone's office and I see them having a full-on meltdown, I just kind of gingerly walk away. Then we cut to Julia's apartment where she is sitting on her bed, stroking a picture of her professor that she keeps under her pillow. It's at this point that I was like, oh, this bitch cray? Is this like a single white female kind of deal? Like, what's going on here? And then Julia gets a call from her father. And her father lets her know that a woman named Grace just died. And she's quite upset by the news. Like, Julia's dad basically says that Grace was like a mother to her and that Julia was best friends with Grace's daughter, Rachel, all the way through high school. He also makes mention of the fact that when she died, Gabriel was not there, which has caused upset amongst the family, giving us our first insight into the fact that Julia and Gabriel know each other, like they kind of grew up with each other, or at the very least, Julia grew up with Gabriel's relatives. And then for some reason, after receiving this news, Julia like gets on her computer and sends an email to this best friend, Rachel, who was Grace's daughter. And I was just sat there like, bitch, if my best friend's mum died, I wouldn't be sending her a fucking email. Hey BBY, hope you're well. Sorry your mama died. XOXO, Julia. So she goes back to class and then Julia realizes that the note that she'd left for Gabriel was actually on the back of the note that Paul slipped to Julia, which read, Emerson's an ass. The logistics of that are just really, really weird because, you know, she had like a whole notebook and could have chosen any single page to write that on, but, you know, no, she had to write it on the one slip of paper that she really shouldn't write that on. Whatever, it's a movie. They need to create drama somehow. So she gets hauled back into Emerson's office, and she actually goes this time. He says to her, essentially, hey, I just went home for my mother's funeral, and I saw that you had sent a card and some flowers, and like, that's inappropriate as hell. And it kind of causes him to be just like really snappy with her, also kind of borderline aggressive, very rude, because kind of understandably from my perspective, he's like, this student, who I've had for a day at this point, found out that my mother had died and then sent flowers in a weird note. Like, that is kinda creepy. We know as the audience that she knows his family, but for some reason he doesn't seem to understand that or remember, and the logic doesn't really make much sense. So he is pissed off that she kind of contacted his family, but she at no point tells him, hey, I know your family, like our families are friends. So it essentially causes him to give her a lot of grief and to be really standoffish with her. So Julia gets flustered, doesn't really say anything, she just kind of almost like becomes non-verbal. She just kind of sits there weirdly, then she just kind of drops her bag and leaves an apple and runs away, kind of like a scared little child. Like, these first few scenes really give us quite a bit of insight into Julia and just how she operates. Like, she's quite meek, she's very mild, she's very clumsy, like, she drops a lot of things, she's very apologetic. She's essentially like early days Kristen Stewart. And the meeting between the two went so poorly that Emerson was like, hey, listen, this really isn't gonna work for me. You're gonna need to leave. And not just like leave this meeting, you're gonna need to leave this school. Pack up everything, I'll tell the dean, just get out of my face, basically. And she runs away into, of course, the pouring rain. So obviously this is a romance movie. Emerson sees her while he's driving home. She's all wet, you know, in the rain. Nipples on show, titties right, looking all drowned and stuff. And he's like, get in the car, bitch. Toot toot beep beep, I'm gonna take you home. When she gets into his car, he's got like some pretentious ass classical music playing, and it's like, oof, this is a serial killer's car, because if I could drive and you got into my car, it'd just be straight TLC. So the professor drives her home, and then for some reason he like goes inside of her house, and his immediate reaction, like as soon as he steps foot through the door, is basically just to tell her, your house is disgusting. And it is so abrupt and so harsh. Like, she offers to take his coat and he's just like, where you gonna put it, bitch? Funny but rude. He also essentially asks her, why do you live in this shithole? He basically just tells him, it's because I'm poor.
This is a terrible place to live.
So I'm living here because it's cheap and I need to walk to campus. And I was looking at her house like, bitch, this place ain't that bad. I've lived in worse. When I was studying, I had to work 3 jobs and my house was still shittier than this. So you get zero sympathy from me, bitch. Nil point. But for some strange reason, I guess she enjoys being disrespected. And of course, he is inexplicably attracted to her for no apparent reason. So he essentially tells her, get in the car, Pavo, we're going for dinner. This is the first part of the movie where Julia, I guess, attempts to stand up to Emerson, and she asks him, why? Why, after everything you've said to me and everything you've done to me, would I come with you? Why? And his reply is this.
Because Emerson is an ass. But at least now he knows it.
Which... Why? Why? Who wrote that line and thought, yeah, this is going in the movie. Apparently that's good enough for her. Crazy bitch. So they go to dinner, and essentially he learns that Julia can speak Italian, which, duh, she's doing a master's degree in Italian literature, so why are you surprised by this? And he asks, where did you get your interest in classical Italian literature from? And she tells him, what's looking at him like this, a friend got me really interested in it when I was younger. And he just replies like, oh, cool. Yeah, sweet. A friend. Yeah, I get it. Your friend. Okay. It's like, my guy, if you can't see where this is going, you're either blind or dumb or a little bit of both. And at this point, cool, I guess we'll keep pretending. Whatever. Oh, and do you remember me mentioning earlier that I watched these movies with a guy? Well, here there was a line that he found unironically so hilarious that he's literally just started quoting it at me in our general daily lives. And like, it isn't even a line that really resonated with me personally, but for some reason it just tickled him so much. I'm gonna put that in here.
You blossom under kindness, don't you? Like a rose.
Like, this movie is ruining my sex life. So then we come to the next scene, which is honestly just like 7 different shades of stupid. So Julia is going to class and she runs into Rachel. Now, if you remember from earlier on in the movie, Rachel is Grace's daughter, and they're just kind of like, oh my god, hey girl, what are you doing here? Oh my god. And she's like, oh my god, girl, like, I go here. And she's like, oh my god, girl, why didn't you tell me? She's like, oh my god, girl, I didn't know I'd be staying, but it's so good to see you. And then Gabriel just shows up like, this creepy bitch is talking to my sister again. And she just drops in a line like, oh, I totally forgot that you two never met. But like, bitch, wasn't she your best friend? How did she never meet your brother? What? And Rachel's essentially like, I'm in town for a few days, so I want to spend time with my brother, and now I want to spend time with my best friend. They all go over to Gabriel's house because Rachel wants to cook them both dinner, and Julia just, has to act like the strange little toddler child that she is, and for some reason spits up all over Gabriel's shirt, drops a glass, and then tries to pick it up with her hands like a 2-year-old. Which, okay, sure, let's just pretend this is how someone acts when they're getting an advanced degree, but whatever. And then Gabriel asks her what I think is a pretty fair question, which is, girl, why didn't you tell me who the fuck you is? Like, if you're my sister's best friend, and you two have known each other for years, why didn't you say something? Like, I wouldn't have been so weirded out about you contacting my family. I wouldn't have been so rude to you. Like, why didn't you just tell me? She replies by saying, and have you take your anger out on someone else? At least I could take it. Which, girl, no. Sweetie, honey, boo-boo, no. You need therapy. You need the therapy. Never make yourself someone's punching bag just because you think you can take it. And it's at this point in the video that I like to spend just a little bit of time just commenting quite briefly on the actors in the movie. I don't want to say that these actors are bad, because honestly, the female lead is essentially giving a good portrayal of the character that she's been given, even if I do find the character very annoying. The major problem that I see with this movie is basically just that the two leads have absolutely no chemistry whatsoever. Oof, it is harsh to watch. I really just cannot see these two people being together. He is mean, rude, loud, abrasive, elitist, and just horrible to her. And she's very meek, mild, caring, nice. Like, I couldn't see these two people together in real life, like, unless it was a very unhealthy, kind of abusive relationship. And then we enter an extended flashback sequence. So we enter a flashback which essentially describes how Julia and Gabriel actually do know each other. This movie takes a whole nother turn at this point, and it's honestly really kind of odd. So essentially, Julia just walks her ass into Rachel's house, because remember, they're best friends, and Rachel's just sat there on the couch, she's crying, and she's essentially like, Gabriel has returned. He's been back for less than a day. He's already assaulted my parents, sent my other brother to the hospital. He's just really, really messed up.
My family is so broken.
And so Julia responds to this by going outside to check on Gabriel. And it's at this point that I was like, wait, Rachel, I thought you said that those two had never met each other, yet you were in the house when they did meet each other? Okay, so you was just lying then. And now, despite the fact that this is supposedly the first time that Julia and Gabriel are meeting each other, he is very tactile. He's holding her hand, he's touching her cheek, he's like taking her for walks, and he's saying things to her. Oh, have you ever held a boy's hand before? And she's like, no. And he's like, oh, well, I'm glad I could be your first.
Have you ever been kissed? Then I'm glad I'm your first.
And I thought about that for a second. 2 + 2 is equaling 27 right here. So let me get something straight. He's the first man to give her a beer, first man to kiss her, first man to hold her hand, first man to lay down next to her. And I was sat there and I was like, dude, how old are you? How old is she? Okay, let's do some maths. Julia is in her first year of a master's degree. Usually you're around 22, 23, at maximum 25, unless you're returning a little bit later after a few years working, but that's never mentioned. He, on the other hand, is already a whole ass professor, and it takes a long time to become a professor. And he makes a point of saying he's not a doctor, he's not just got a PhD, he's a professor. Like, it takes around 7, 8, sometimes up to 10 years to become a professor. So there's like a 7 to 10 year age gap between these people. And if she's like, you know, never kissed a guy, she's never held hands with a guy, she's never even sneezed in the same room as a dick, then she's gonna be pretty young. In this scene, I think she's probably around 16, 15 to 17, and he's probably like 25. Like, he's probably the age here that Julia is in the modern day. You feel me? Taking this young girl for a walk through an orchard and like making out with her and stuff. And he's not just like casually doing this either. He's like laying it on thick. Oh, you are my muse. You are my Beatrice. And she's like, who Beatrice?
You're beautiful, Beatrice. A brown-eyed angel.
Oh, Beatrice was Dante's muse. He met her when he was young and loved her from afar. And I'm like, he met her when she was very young, maybe underage. You need to be on some kind of register. Lies next to her and tells her that she is his brown-eyed angel and that for the rest of his life, he will dream of her breathing his name.
Molly, you in danger, girl.
And I'm just sat here and I'm like, what the fuck? So in the modern day, Gabriel has absolutely zero recollection of this entire sequence of events. You don't remember meeting this chick. You don't remember taking her into the woods. You don't remember making out with her. You don't remember lying there looking up at the stars telling her that she's your brown-eyed muse. You don't remember none of this? Okay, so either he has amnesia, like either he's been hit on the upside of the head with a brick, or he just says this to everybody, like this is just a pickup line that he uses. This is just like me when I go to a bar and I pretend that I can read palms, just because it's kind of like a tactile way to, like, you know, make a move and pick someone up. He's just doing the exact same thing. Like, he has used this line on every single woman with brown eyes that he has ever met. Like, at this point, we have had numerous paintings of Beatrice, including one in her house. We've had the scent of vanilla, feeds her an apple when they're in this orchard, and she left an apple in his office in the beginning. Best friends with your sister from high school. She also knows your parents, which would explain why she was invited to your house that day for dinner. She literally told you that a friend from years ago got her really interested in Italian classical literature, specifically Dante and Beatrice, and you still can't put 2 and 2 together and remember that this is the woman that you I'm not saying woman, this is the girl that you took to a field and did all this creepy shit with. How many girls were there? Gabriel, how many girls? You and the FBI have a meeting in your immediate future. So the flashback ends and we kind of, you know, skip forward a little bit. There's like, you know, the obligatory club scene. Like, there was one in The Protector 2. I honestly just think that every Passionflix movie has to have a club scene because, you know, clubs are sexy and we're watching people be sexy and do sexy things. Meow, you know? And in that scene, he literally tells her, you know, you remind me of Beatrice from that painting. You know, the one that's in your house. And that literally sealed it for me. I was sat there and I was like, yeah, he said this to every single pasty white woman in the fucking world. We then get some ham hock explanation about why Gabriel is Italian and the rest of his family is not, but honestly that's not really important, so I'm just gonna kind of, you know, scooch over this bit. Oh, I should also say that Julia has had a little bit of a burgeoning relationship with Paul, who is the guy from the beginning of the movie who passed her the note. Honestly, I like Paul. Respectful, he isn't a dick, but she's just kind of like, nah, I'm good. Nah. R.I.P. Paul. You were a good character, and actually, low-key, I find him kind of attractive. Like, I prefer him over the lead, but whatever. But from this point in the movie, Gabriel's behavior just completely changes, and he almost does a 180. Like, he goes from kind of saying, you know, he has to be professional and all this kind of crap, to just really hitting on her hard in a way that is really unnerving for everyone involved. And it seems to include Julia because she seems really put off and very kind of creeped out by the way that he's behaving. Like, he gives her a bursary, like a student grant of like $5,000 a semester. And she's essentially like, dude, I can't take this. Like, it kind of looks like you're trying to buy me. And he just replies to her by saying like, girl, if I wanted you, I wouldn't have to buy you. I mean, we love a confident king. He really just said, girl, if I wanted you, you'd be doing the splits on my face right now. So we're like getting into the home stretch of the movie. And honestly, at this point, I'm like, God damn, this movie's so long. Oh my God, this movie's taking forever. Gabriel's at a bar, just randomly getting drunk for no reason that is told to the audience. And Julia is kind of called in to, you know, get him home. Essentially, Julia goes to like pick him up and get him in a cab to go home because he's just drunk as hell. So she goes in and she's essentially like, hey, can you help me get a taxi? He's like, yeah, sure. And then she puts him in the taxi and they go back to his place. And this actor then delivers some of the worst drunk acting I have ever seen. So whilst they're in his house, he like calls her a naughty kitty. You know, like George Galloway did on Big Brother.
Now would you like me to be the cat?
And like makes fun of her for being a virgin. Because of course your doe-eyed female lead just has to be a virgin. She has to be pure. And he like pushes her against the wall and tries to force her to like kiss him. And she legitimately seems like afraid of him at this point.
Please don't hurt me.
This is what people thought was sexy? Can't relate. And then after this, he like immediately throws up on her, which is also kind of funny. But honestly, I was kind of hoping that he'd like throw up in her mouth. Okay, so she gets him to bed and like changes him out of his like gross clothes that are full of sick. And then all of a sudden, he's like, Beatrice! Which... you haven't remembered this far, but okay, he remembers. He's like, what's good, homegirl? I thought you'd forgotten me. No, you didn't. Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. He holds her in his arms and tells her that he loves her. She says, I love you too. I've missed you so much, yada yada yada. And then they fall asleep in each other's arms. And you'd think that would be where the movie ends, right? No, this movie has to add a whole nother level of stupid. So in the morning, she wakes up and she goes to make him a breakfast of grapes and orange juice, which, okay. And then she writes him a note, which just reads, oh, you know, I was starting to give up all hope, But then, you know, you looked at me last night and you called me Beatrice and my hope has been rekindled. I'm so happy, la 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 la. And this scene honestly just felt like a personal attack. An attack to me, an attack to you, an attack to anybody who watches this movie. Gabriel wakes up, sees her in his apartment and is like, bitch, the fuck are you doing in my house? What is going on here? Did we sleep together? Like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? And she's just like, you don't remember? And she just gets pissed off and she's like, fuck you, I'm leaving. So she's stamping around. He goes to the fridge to get some water and sees the note that she left in the fridge with his grapes and orange juice. And she'd signed the note, "You're Beatrice." So he sees this note and then goes after her and is like, why did you sign the note, Beatrice? Oh my god. He still has no fucking clue who the fuck she is after all of this. Even after remembering who she is, he still does not know who she is. Brenda, go home, Brenda. Give it up, Brenda. Go home. Go get a husband and have 3 kids and never think about this man again because he's just pure trash. Girl, get some self-worth, which she does. She gets angry, she tells him to fuck off. I called myself Beatrice because you told me to find you in hell. And that's where I found you. And then he's like, oh, it's you! Hey, bitch! He's like, oh my god, you! Oh my god, it's you! And then the lift door closes and she says, I'm not your Beatrice anymore. But girl, were you ever? And that's the end of the movie. So I'm gonna put on my lashes. I'm gonna make some little final little fussy fusses, maybe put on a lip, and then I will be right back with some final thoughts. Meow. Hi. I have a photo shoot after this where I have to change into full latex. So I will not be changing into that a second before I have to. What did I think about this movie? Well, I was very confused by the timeline. The timeline made absolutely no good goddamn sense. I don't know how old anyone was. I don't know when anything was happening. I don't even know what was happening half the time. Did I set my face? But I'm not gonna lie, there was just something about it. There was something about this movie that made me and the guy I was watching it with just want to watch part 2. Because we were just like, these people, there hasn't been any sex yet. There hasn't been any good nookie. They really haven't done anything sexy whatsoever. But it is buck wild. It is buck wild. We were just watching it like, oh good and goddamn. You people are motherfucking crazy. I'm not sure about the kind of underage stuff. Don't know how that's gonna play out. I hear there's a part 2. We've seen it on the listings for Passionflix, so we will check it out. And maybe stay tuned because maybe coming up shortly will be Dante's Inferno part 2. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. You can find links to all of my socials in the description box down below. And until next time, kisses from England. Bye guys!